Do you think cannabis legislation is possible in Australia or in particular states and territories in the next few years?
Yes, I think it's possible. Whether it'll happen or not is another question, but we've seen already significant advance in the ACT in January. And we have to remember that, you know, this question about Australia being a federation and whether states and territories can start a reform of this kind on their own. We have to remember that the ACT's already done it, and that when cannabis prohibition was introduced, that began with the Commonwealth in Australia, began with the Commonwealth writing to all the states and territories and telling them that the Commonwealth expected them to introduce that. And they introduced that all at different stages, different years. So if the prohibition can be introduced at different times without people getting too upset about it, presumably the reverse process of reform can also occur at different periods. We've seen in the United States that another federation where 11 states and Washington, D.C. Have essentially regulated, legalized recreational cannabis. And so that means that so far 39 states haven't. And in Canada, the first rich country, G7 country, to introduce the regulation of cannabis. That was in October 2018. The 13 different provinces in Canada also did it all at the same time, but every province has got different laws from every other province. So the short answer is it isn't really a problem in federations if some states or territories do it in advance of other states and territories.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Maki, just from your perspective, because obviously I'm sure everyone's aware that New Zealand is on the cusp of maybe legalising, how has that process been for you and your comrades in New Zealand in terms of getting this up to the point where we can have a referendum?
Very tiring. People died waiting for this law to happen, and it's definitely well overdue, and we're still very passionate. My co-leader, Michael Appleby, has been in the movement right from the beginning of 1996 when MMP was introduced to New Zealand politics. And all the hashtags, referendum, 2020, cannabis referendum, all those things are part of the jigsaw puzzle that makes us validated and strong-haired, passionate, grounded. You know, it's at the ground level that this is going to happen. It's going to bring a whole lot of people out of the shadows just to vote yes, because we're all over it, and there's no reason why we are in a state of despair with the cannabis law reform.